2020 was not a good year for the Auburn Tigers. They did finish 6-4, third in the SEC West, but really weren't competitive against rivals Georgia and Alabama. Gus Malzahn has now been fired. Of course, Brian Harsin coming in from Boise State. And again, yes, it was a 6-4 season. Yes, they were third in the SEC West, behind only top 5 teams in Alabama and Texas A&M. When you look at it like that, you could say, well, it wasn't such a horrible year. But when you look at some of the close games, look at the Arkansas game, they really should have lost. It was not a good year. You lose to South Carolina. South Carolina was terrible. This past season, I think they only won a couple of games. So, yes, the record wasn't horrible for Auburn, but it was not a good year. And you look to 2021, and you have to say, will this Auburn team be better or will they be worse in 2021? And I think you look at that a couple different ways. You first look at the record. Will the record be better or worse? And just will the overall team play, actual team, how will they be better or worse? So there is a couple of ways to look at that. And let me just give you my early thoughts on this Auburn team. Bo Nix will be back at quarterback. That is big for them. I know he has struggled. I know he's had some major issues with his mechanics and his pocket presence and some things like that. We'll see what Brian Harsin can do. Can he fix Bo Nix? If he can, Bo Nix has the tools, I think, to be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. We haven't seen that yet, but I do like his intangibles, his competitiveness, his ability to just make plays. So I think there's enough there where he could have a breakout year this year, or we could see more of the same. His completion percentage was right around 60% last year. But I think the biggest issue was the interceptions. 7 interceptions, just 12 touchdowns. Going to have to improve on that. And again, we've seen him really throughout his career play really well at home and really bad on the road. I don't know why that is, but we will have to see that improve if Auburn is going to be better in 2021. They lose DJ Williams. He transferred to Florida State. Harold Joyner transferred. Mark Anthony Richard. So they lost some depth at running back, but they still have Tank Bigsby, who was one of the top freshmen really at any position last year. Had some injury problems, but when he was going, he was very, very tough to bring down. One of the top running backs in the country. Sean Shivers also will be back, a veteran, to give you that 1-2 punch. So if they can stay healthy, the run game should be pretty solid for them. You look at the wide receivers, that's where they're going to take a big step back offensively, losing Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, and Eli Stobe. You've got some talented young players in there. Shedrick Jackson, he's probably going to be their veteran. He was a sophomore last year. The rest of them are really freshmen. J.J. Evans, Kobe Hudson, Capers, Canyon, who played pretty well in the bowl game. We're going to have to find out. Can these guys play? Can they step up? They will depend on these young wide receivers because they're not going to have any real proven guys at that position. Mike Bobo likes to use the tight end, so we'll see how that plays out. They've got some guys at tight end that they haven't really used a whole lot, so that could be interesting there. And they do bring everyone back on the offensive line. That's good news, although the offensive line really struggled last year, so maybe that's not a good thing. For many years when I evaluated teams, I would always look at the offensive line and just who's coming back. How many starters are coming back on the offensive line, and think, well, if a team's got a lot of guys coming back on the offensive line should be good. They should be better. That's not always the case, because a lot of times some of these guys that struggle continue to struggle. They don't get better. So developing this offensive line over the offseason will be very important for Auburn. And it really probably is the key to their offense. If they can't block, if they can't run the ball, they can't protect Bo Nix, the offense is not going to be very good. Nick Brahms will be the bright spot there at center. He actually is a very talented guy, and some other young players, we'll see what they can do. It's going to be very interesting to see if this offensive line gets better or gets worse in 2021. They also had a lot of injuries, had some health issues up front, so, cut them a little bit of slack, I guess, for that. But again, they will have to be much better. Defensively, it's interesting. It's hard to say what the defense is going to look like next year. Maybe they're going to move to a 3-4 defense. That'll change things up a little bit. Big Cat Bryant is gone. That is a big loss. Tyron Truesdale, defensive tackle. He's another guy. Newkirk transferred. So a couple of guys on the defensive line transferred. They do have Some players coming back, though, that could be really good for them. Colby Wooden was a freshman last year, really emerged as a star. Derek Hall, another guy. You look at TD Moultrie, who may actually move to linebacker if they go to 3-4. So it'll be interesting to see what the defensive line looks like. I think they'll be okay. They played a lot of young guys last year, so I don't think that that's an area where I'm too concerned. Linebackers should be fine. They bring everyone back. KJ Britt only played like a couple of games last year. He went to the NFL, but the other guys will be back, including Chandler Wooten, who opted out last season. So you got some very talented linebackers. But again, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the defense. They only played 2 linebackers. It was really a 4-2-5 for Auburn last year. So what do you do now? If you got to go from 2 to 4 linebackers, you're going to have to probably have some guys change positions, and we'll have to see how that all plays out. Looking in the secondary, Matthew Hill, he transferred, didn't really play a whole lot last year. I think it was actually a wide receiver originally. Jordan Peters and Jamian Sherwood, those are going to be the key guys that they lose at the safety position, losing both of those players. But everyone else will be back. This team should have a pretty good secondary. Jalen Simpson at cornerback, Roger McCreary back, Nehemiah Pritchett will be back. So they've got some pretty good talent there at corner. Look at safety, Smoke Monday will be back. Christian Tutt, I don't know what his deal is. He said he was going to the NFL, then he said he was going to transfer. Now he's not in the portal. I don't know if he's coming back or not, but if he does come back, that is going to be big for them. So when you look at the overall defense, I think they have a chance to actually be a little bit better if the new scheme can work, if everything can gel together. Auburn has a chance to have a pretty solid defense in 2021. The offense, that's going to be the big question. Again, the offensive line, Bo Nix, the receivers, how does all that come together? So will Auburn be better or worse in 2021? I'm going to say that they'll be worse. And they have potential to be better. They have potential to be really good. They have talent on the roster, but I don't really see it coming together in year 1 under Brian Harsin. Can he develop Bo Nix? If he turns Bo Nix into a star, if the offensive line can make some big strides in the offseason with Tank Bigsby running the football and some talented young wide receivers, yeah, they have a chance to be much better offensively. Defensively, they've got young talent. Again, how is it going to come together over the offseason? That's going to be the big key for Auburn. In year 1, I'm usually hesitant to say the team is going to be better. We saw some year 1 head coaches last year, though, make their teams better. Arkansas, Missouri, these teams were better. Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. So it's possible that Auburn could actually be a surprise team and could be really good in 2021. But looking at it right now, again, with my early thoughts, I think this team is probably going to be a little bit worse. Really about the same as they were last year. A pretty difficult schedule, though. The record might not be quite as good in the SEC. So those are my early thoughts on the Auburn Tigers. And again, I think this team could actually be a little bit worse in 2021.